话说，这个英格兰的黑太子所率领的军队围城失败之后呢，转战其他地方，但是在发动攻击之前呢，遇到了风暴，不得已只好跟当时的国王议和。虽然说双方达成了和平的协定，但是法兰西的各地依旧动荡不安。继位的皇太子查理，则必须率领军队巩固他的王权，不仅要面对四处流窜的佣兵，还有农民起义，以及还有叛军的王位之争等等，这些都必须要由继位的查理来想办法。玩家呢，则是必须扮演查理，来帮助他巩固自己的王权。
The walls of Paris held out against the English onslaught. England's King Edward and the Black Prince abandoned the siege. They marched towards Chartres to try their luck at conquering a less formidable target. But before they could attack, a violent storm hit the army. Killing 1,000 English soldiers in a tempest of hail and freezing winds. To Edward, this Black Monday disaster seemed like divine retribution. A sign that it was time to stop waging war and make peace with France's King Jean. But even as peace between kings was reached, the people of France were still living in bloodshed and turmoil. Between 1358 and 1370, France was in chaos. Peasant uprisings, rampaging bands of mercenaries, and civil war ravaged the country. Peasants rose in rebellion, killing their lords and wreaking havoc. Mercenary bands also roamed the land. Known as routiers, they had once been hired by the English to fight against the French, but were cut loose when peace was reached. They systematically ravaged and pillaged towns across France. And with King Jean prisoner in England, his son Charles the Dauphin faced homegrown attacks on his rule by powerful French lords, beset from all sides. The Dauphin's forces had to regain control over their own country. Having only recently been crowned King of France, Charles V dispatched his army to the French-held village of Évreux to forge order from chaos. From here, the army would move to extinguish three major threats: bands of roving mercenaries harrying the countryside, a peasant uprising, and attacks from a rival for the French crown, Charles of Navarre. The French army would start by reclaiming the rebel-held villages of Cocherel, Jouy, and Croissy. As the French army struggled to regain control of the countryside, they were struck by a band of English routiers. These mercenaries had been cut loose by the English army and were plundering the countryside in order to make a living. The French forces eliminated the routier attack, but more were still raiding the countryside in search of provisions and riches. The routier demanded payment from the French, or they would continue their horrifying raids.
Odite, venies, servientes. Bene, bene. Entendo.
In taking the village of Jouy, the French army was closer to stemming the peasant rebellion and regaining control.
Ci sommes. Cose sera massonata.
The central monastery town of Cocherel would continue to send out rebel attack parties to weaken the French army. The village of Croissy, rich in gold deposits, was a crucial town for the French to reclaim. The French army defeated the rebels at Croissy and took control of the gold-rich village. The central monastery town of Cocherel was still under the control of rebel peasants. The French army would have to take it before they could launch an assault on Charles of Navarre.
Io ma sono la cosa.
The French army took control of the rebel villages, and the peasant uprising was subdued. But to keep control over the region, they would need to defend its center of influence, the monastery at Cocherel. Northeast of Cocherel, Charles of Navarre's army had established a fortified camp. The King of Navarre sought to make himself ruler of France as well. He intended to press his claim by destroying the newly arrived royal forces.
Soyez prêts pour votre service.
With the Routier camp destroyed, mercenary attacks were no longer a threat.
Soyez avant, compagnons. Si comme vos voldrez. Attendez les commandements. Quand je commande.
Pushing up the hillside, the French discovered Charles of Navarre's camp. His front line had the high ground and was made up entirely of archers. The French would have to think carefully about how to approach the stronghold. The French army had repelled Charles of Navarre, stemmed the revolt, and held back the raids of the Routier. In the struggle for control over France's lands, the king still clung to power.